Welcome back to another Q&A video. I tell you, the questions are really good, so post some more down below and let's get started. Is it bad to only train chest and arms? Because I don't want to look huge, and even guys with small backs but huge arms and chest look good as fuck. Really, man? You can go down this path if you choose to, but let me say that you risk getting injured big time, and you'll end up with that gorilla posture. I don't know what's aesthetic about that. Whatever happened to balance, my dude? Sure, if you want a bit more gains in the chest and arms, you want to be stupid huge, fine. Do what you want. Become a push-up master. I don't care. But your structural integrity matters. And if you're doing all these pushing movements, no horizontal, not even a freaking pull-up, you're asking for trouble, bro. And I mean it. And you will regret it when you end up getting hurt. On top of that, it doesn't look as good as you claim. You may think that initially, but once you actually start lifting and you realize that you have all these muscular imbalances, and the pains are coming in. And when you're wearing shirts, it's loose in all the wrong places. You'll reevaluate what you're doing. Alex, I've been lifting for 4 months and I still look the same. Only my strength has improved. Is this due to neural adaptations? Yes, but you probably did improve, but you don't even realize it yourself. Did you take before pictures? I really hope that you did. Otherwise, you might be in a delusional state right now. Perhaps you did gain a lot of muscle mass. Perhaps you actually recomped without even knowing it. Maybe the weight scale is the same, but that's just because you got more muscle, less body fat. Maybe your measurements did go up, but because you weren't taping it, you have no idea what went on. I have a very hard time believing that in 4 months of serious lifting with all these strength gains, you made no size improvements whatsoever. I call bullshit, my man, unless you didn't gain that much strength. Then it would all make sense. But if you're running a good novice routine, after 4 months, bro, your numbers are going to be much higher. And yes, there will be a lot of neural adaptations, you're brand new to lifting and all that, but ultimately, after that ceases, hypertrophy always occurs. So in my opinion, you did make size gains, you're just not seeing it clearly because you haven't looked at where you came from. How would you change the intensity day concurrent while cutting, i.e. when a calorie deficit, if at all? Very good question. I would say you want to train exactly the same. However, for intensity days, maybe you don't have to go 100% balls to the wall. So if you're going to use the max effort method, cap it off at 90%. You're good to go. So instead of going to a 10, you go to a 9. Slightly lower percentages. This way you got slightly better recovery, and therefore you're not going to feel as drained during your cut, if you will. But honestly, you can train the exact same way. If you're able to actually maintain your strength, that would be ideal. It's just that most will eventually regress. So I suppose if you're just training a little bit less intense, might be a better strategy just for staying in the game long term in this cut, because it will be brutal and you will feel a lot lower in energy. So that's the only change that I would make. And for volume days, slightly lower volume, I suppose. But again, if you're able to maintain that, definitely want to go that route instead. Hey Alex, could bro splits actually work better than novice programs for some? Yes, under 2 conditions. 1, are you extremely motivated and do you love the bro split? In other words, are you willing to put in the work no matter how inefficient it may be time-wise? Like, there are bro splits that have you go in the gym twice a day, morning and night. So the frequency is still going to be high. It's just that there's a lot of time investment. Or you're in the gym every single day and you don't have those rest opportunities. But because it's a different body part, you can technically recover, despite it being the same nervous system. But I digress. Yeah, you can make great gains with bro splits if that's what you really want and you're willing to put in the hard work. And of course, the second principle is that it must include some type of progression model. It can't just be fluff and pump bullshit where you're not doing anything. No, you have to actually get stronger workout to workout. So if on your chest day, for example, you start off with a flat barbell bench press, week 1 is 150 pounds, well, maybe week 2, 155, and you induce linear progression that way. Or perhaps you do concurrent bro split, which works too. A lot of guys actually surpass the novice phase with this approach. They do 1 month of certain exercises, okay, then another month with different exercises, and they tweak the sets and reps very slightly. Go ahead and do that. That's fine. So what matters is progressive overload. If you induce that, no matter what the program may be, you'll make great gains. It's just that it might not be optimal. And that's the key distinction. Are you looking to make optimal or effective gains? Because bro splits, I would say, they could be quite effective if you do them right. But compared to other systems that exist, I wouldn't call them optimal. But you do what you want, my man. Hey Alex, how do I prevent pec tears? Very simple. Number 1, stay natural, because that in itself reduces the risk like crazy. Secondly, run a maximized routine that has you doing a variety of different exercises. This way you have no weak links whatsoever and you're constantly preventing overuse. I believe minimalist programs definitely contribute to injuries more than maximized approaches, just straight up. Then thirdly, which is the most important factor of all, is to use full range of motion on all your presses. If you want to do partials, that's an accessory. But you don't do a manual partial unless it's like a spoto press or something, okay? But even then, I would still call full range, or like a t-shirt press. No, if you're going to do a partial, it's done off boards or off pins, or you're going to use bands to accommodate the resistance. So you're still getting full range of motion. Or a slingshot, right? But the main exercise has to be full range of motion done off the chest. And preferably with a pause if you really want to strengthen those pecs, right? See, the guys who constantly tear their pecs, they're just doing fucking half reps all the time. So one day they end up in the full range position. They never strengthen that position, and there you go. They get hurt. And this happens all the time to guys on drugs, especially the ones that flare their elbows out like crazy and they do half reps on the dumbbell press. It's so ironic because guys, they do dumbbell presses because they want more range of motion, right? But then the dumbbells get bulkier, so they're not even going full range anyway, even if they do touch their chest. So instead, they're doing fucking half reps with weights that's really partial. And then one day they get a little bit too deep, pec tear. Happens all the time. So I recommend full fucking range. And the partials is the other stuff that you do, okay? And you rotate the variations. Problem solved. Do you think that sleeping 10 hours is bad for health? I run Bulgarian light and want to get as much recovery as possible. Okay, when you're doing a high frequency program like that, you need the extra recovery. So I don't know how much you're going to need, bro. I could say at least 8, maybe 9 with the higher frequency. But then 10, depends how messed up you are. Depends how brutal the programming is. I don't know, bro. I have no fucking idea. You got to figure this out for yourself. But what I say it's bad for your health, listen, dude, if you're training that intensely, is that the greatest thing for your health? Or just beyond that, like the fact that you need that extra recovery, yeah, you might need your 10 hours. And I would say being not recovered is worse than the opposite. So to my knowledge, I don't think it's bad to sleep that much. You could read the book Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. I think it depends on the growing stages, right? If you're a serious athlete, like the extra recovery is beneficial. So I just say sleep according to your natural schedule, right? Wake up without the alarm if possible and let that dictate what's going on. Just don't be lazy and lie down in bed when you know that you're actually awake. So that's what I would say in regards to that. I'm no sleep expert, bro. Yeah, Alex, what do you think about the trap bar overhead press? I don't have a ton of experience with it, but when I did use it, I can say that it was brutal as fuck. Extremely challenging, especially with the Z-press style. It's just difficult, especially the lockout, bro. Holy shit. Because the trap bar handle is a little bit wider too, right? So you don't have like that. Like you don't have that optimal alignment, if you will. So that makes it more difficult in itself. And also like, it's just more awkward. It's a special variation, if you will. It just changes the movement pattern. So personally, I prefer the Swiss bar overhead press because now we got all the various grips that we can use, okay? And it's more calibrated to anthropometry. But nonetheless, the trap bar is another variation, and it's a great way to override the biological law of accommodation. So I would definitely recommend that you give it a shot. Yo, Alex, assuming the individual has average genetics, would deadlifts and zercher squats suffice for well-balanced proportionate leg gains? I'd say so, man. Just general squats and deads will take care of the most part, provided you get strong at them. But I don't recommend that you only do them because I believe this will increase the chance of getting injured. Of course, you want to do the accessories to complement these main lifts. So I'll say, yeah, if you're focusing on zercher squat and deadlift, then you do some accessories on the side, you're 100% covered, unquestionably, okay? And you don't have to do a barbell back squat, okay? There are many other ways to get bigger legs, and the zerchers are very, very, very effective, and they're extremely difficult as well. Same thing for the front squat. You can use that as your main movement. Just stop being bound to the rules of powerlifting if you're not one. You don't have to train like that. Nor do you have to do 1 rep max back squats. It's not a necessity for gaining size. Like I said, there are bodybuilders worldwide, natural ones too, just doing leg press and fucking hack squats and basic little shit like that in the gym. They got amazing legs, some better than powerlifters. So although the high bar squat is probably the best leg exercise of all time, realistically, probably the most feasible for most of you, it's definitely not required. And anybody who tells you that you must do this exercise is a biased motherfucker, and you should never listen to anything that person has to say. Even if their intentions are good, they're lying to you straight out because it's not true whatsoever that you have to do the exercise to get big legs. It's just false. So yeah, zerchers are fucking brutal. You're going to get amazing legs with that approach. No question about it. And deadlifts, yeah, that's going to build up your glutes and hamstrings and the spinal rectors. It complements with the squats nicely. And actually, I would say a better combination is probably zercher squats and RDLs. There you go. To me, that's like even crazier. So enjoy that. Bro, why my bent over rows doesn't have carryover to my pull-ups? Well, you're comparing apples to oranges, bro. Like, why would you expect to have a super strong weighted pull-up if you don't practice the lift? Unless you're doing other vertical pulling variations. But even then, you're moving your body through space. It's not the same. Weighted calisthenics is a unique animal. You have to train for it specifically, okay? And it's like there are tons of fat guys that could row incredible amounts of weight. Can't even do bodyweight pull-ups. There are lots of guys in the gym who They're just beasts at the rows. They can't do pull-ups. And to me, I find that pretty sad, to be honest with you. Guys who claim to be about ultimate performance, yet they can't even do a basic fucking exercise like hanging off a bar. That's beyond me, but I digress. Yeah, bro, you want to get better at pull-ups? Start training it. And you can see my ultimate pull-up guide, and I show you how to get started with this approach. Then when you start doing a weighted, watch your fucking back gains blow up, and watch how better you feel too, in terms of lower back and the shoulders and your posture, everything, bro. I'm telling you, pull-ups are the fucking truth. So if you're noticing right now that you're not getting carryover from the rows, well, you get on the pull-up train, okay? And I'll tell you this, you get strong at pull-ups, watch your other movements go up as well. Hey Alex, I currently don't have access to a gym to do heavy weighted squats. Which would you recommend as a primary leg movement, weighted pistol squats or weighted lunges? I'm just going to say do both, but if you can only pick one, I would say weighted lunges. And I'm actually going to be making a video on this very soon, comparing those two exercises exactly. And I have to say that the winner is a weighted lunge for the simple reason that it allows for effective loading in a much safer way. You're not going to compromise the lower back as much. There's less of a stabilization aspect, which is one of the main problems with the weighted pistol squat. It's more feasible in general. So I'm going to make a video on that soon, so stay tuned. But I would definitely make the weighted lunge your primary movement and then maybe the pistols as your secondary. Although technically you could just choose to do one and you'll be fine. So in my view of maximized program, you're doing unilateral lifts. You do it all. Problem solved. Opinion on training full body 5 times a week and a workout consisting of 3 sets of squats, bench, overhead press, chin, snatch, deadlifts, bicep curl, tricep, extension, sufficient volume. Yeah, it's definitely sufficient volume and frequency. You're going to get stupid strong and jacked with this approach. My only problem is that you risk getting injured straight up. And I would not recommend this to most people. I don't think this is a feasible routine for the vast majority of people watching online fitness videos. Just straight up. But if you're able to handle this type of volume and frequency and you're able to recover, go ahead. But I really don't think that this is the best route to go long term. Maybe as a short-term strategy, but long term, I think you're going to burn out mentally and physically. You can quite easily get injured with this approach. And I also believe that you're going to plateau harder as well because you're just managing all these variables at one time. So yeah, you'll get results, but is it worth it at the end of the day? That's for you to decide. How would you combine powerlifting with calisthenics while keeping the frequency for squat, bench, deadlift high? Very simple. Treat the bodyweight movements as accessories. Problem solved. So when you're training your bench press, you can do push-ups right after as a secondary movement, maybe weighted push-ups. It's actually going to complement it and you're still going to get carryover. Or you do weighted dips as your secondary press. You're perfect. Or in a volume session, right, you just do bodyweight push-ups for high reps. In regards to your back training or just trying to raise your squat and deadlift, that's where the pull-ups come in, okay? You can do weighted pull-ups right after your rows, for example. And I think the rows should be favored if you're talking about deadlift carryover, right? So you do your pull-ups right after the rows. It could be bodyweight or weighted, depending how tired you are that day. And you're good. And then when you're doing your squat training, I always believe that bodyweight pull-ups complement it nicely. So you can do those as well, even though it might not be a upper body workout. Just do some bodyweight pull-ups at the end of your squat training, man. I'm telling you, it's going to make a difference. So that's how we do it, bro. Simple as that. And then the skill work can be done on any day. Depends how specific we're trying to get here, but just treat it as basic accessories, right? You can also incorporate grease in the groove on your off days. Shouldn't impede your recovery. And voila, enjoy the best of all worlds, my friend. Are seated deadlifts just as effective as rack pulls above the knee? Not quite as effective, but comparable. When I first started doing that lift, bro, the weighted stretch on the traps was absolutely insane. I was like, holy fuck, is this going to be the new rack pull above the knee? I kid you not, like, it was unbelievable. The stretch, like the soreness, it was like the exact same feeling, but it was different now. Because now the weight was a little bit behind the body and I was completely upright. And actually with this lift, you're not going to have any thoracic grounding for the most part. It's a sick fucking lift if you want that weighted stretch in the traps. The only problem that I found is that when you get past a certain point in terms of lifting weights, I think the max I did was 725, 765, around that range. I actually have it recorded, right? It makes it very weird, the movement pattern. I can't explain it, but it becomes fucking weird as shit. And also, like, the range of motion gets more and more decreased for some reason. It's like it's almost like you're getting more and more stretched to the point where it's like you're barely lifting the weight whatsoever off the ground, which doesn't really matter for building up the traps, but I find that the movement pattern, the heavier you go, gets distorted. So if you're going to do that, I would say sticking to the 500-600 pound range is much more feasible, okay? When you start going past that point, I'm not really a huge fan of it. But in terms of like that sensation on the traps, I would say it's very comparable for sure. And by the way, when I talk about seated deadlift, I'm not referring to the one that Louis Simmons talks about. No, it's like behind the back and you're sitting down on a bench, right? And then you just pull. It's much easier than a pull from the ground, trust me, okay? Hey dude, what do you think about weighted ring dips? Another fantastic variation that you can include, man. I'm all about maximized programming. I'm all about doing it all. Ring dips in isolation are fantastic. They will get you stupid fucking strong and jacked as well and give you carry with the regular dips, okay? You do it with weights at the same time, we're flying, bro. It's like doing a crazy bell bench. Same exact concept. except it's different. And on a calisthenics concurrent program, that's exactly what I would do as an additional movement to override the biological law of accommodation. So give it a shot. What are your thoughts on training while sick? It depends how sick you are. But if you're really fucked up, I would say do not go to a gym or don't even train at home, because it's only going to make things worse. And I've made that mistake so many times, but nowadays I just learned my lesson. If I know that I'm really screwed up, I'm just not going to train. That's it, because it makes things worse. Now, if you're just a tiny little bit sick, okay, maybe you can get a workout in. But don't push it too hard. Don't go crazy now. Don't destroy your body to the point where now you're really feeling bad. So it depends on the degree of the sickness, but I would say in most cases, you should probably just rest. That's what your body wants to do. And missing a workout or two is not going to kill you. It's actually going to make things better if you're actually in a negative state right now. Oh yeah, and when you're at a public gym, man, you risk getting other people sick. So that's not really fun, right? Would you like it if someone did that to you? Would farmer carries be good for progressing main lift and substitute to rack pulls? Farmer walks are great in building up the traps. I'm always talking about the benefits of the weighted stretch. But the problem is the fact that you will be limited by the weight in most cases. So if you're going to do farmer walks as a replacement for rack pulls, it's going to be hard to do unless you're very strong at that movement. You're maybe doing a trap bar farmer walk, something like that, right? So I would say if you can do that exercise, right, and most of you are just going to do it with dumbbells because you don't have the actual farmer walk implements, do it on your volume days or after the main work. And now you could just do it for longer periods of time, like 60-second walks. To me, I found that to be very, very effective. So that's how I would do it personally. And then for your main lift, you can't top rack pulls or just a standard block pull or even just a regular pull, man. Stick with those. Treat the farmers as an accessory. Even though in isolation, farmers will still get you yoked as fuck. So that's how I would approach it personally. Unless you're just giving up on deadlifts altogether, then do the farm walks as your main stuff and that's it. Hey Alex, you recommend Wenning warm-ups for novices and teens? I don't know, bro. Like, I don't even have a lot of experience with this myself. I've used it a few times in my workouts, but I have to personally experience the benefits before I can start recommending. Although I have no doubt that this is the truth. And by the way, if you guys don't know about it, like, check out my interview that I did with Matt Wenning. It's very comprehensive and you'll learn a lot. So I would say, is it a good idea? Probably. Is that what Matt Wenning does with his clients when he's working with beginners and all that? I would say he probably does do that with them, right? So maybe it's a great idea to start. I don't know. But if you're on a linear progression system, I wouldn't do it personally. But what do I know, right? I don't have enough experience with the warm-ups. I would just say if you're on a concurrent routine as a novice, maybe give it a shot for sure, yeah. Alex, have you tried band lateral raises? Yeah, I made a workout video a long time ago with home with bands, right? And I show you the band lateral raise. It's actually very good because at the top you have peak contraction. And then when you're going down, you got the overspeed eccentrics from the bands, but it's also a little bit lighter. But you still have tension throughout the entire range of motion. As opposed to a standard dumbbell lateral raise, right? There's a part where you're just holding the weights, right? Unless you just do that TUT approach, which might be more effective than the bands in that case, right? But nonetheless, it's another strategy. Overrides the biological law of accommodation. Changes the strength curve a little bit. You know, you get stronger in certain joint angles. I would say give it a shot for sure. And on a maximized routine, you know, so you're stalling on the regular side raise, throw that in, bro. Great idea, for sure. Hey, Alex, I do intensity day and volume day. Can I do the same exercise every week and change it up after a month? Thanks. Yes, you can. But depending on your experience level, you might plateau a lot sooner. And also depends what the strength training strategies are. Like if you're doing the max effort method, you're not going to last a month. You just won't. You're going to plateau after 3 weeks about, okay? If you're actually doing 100% balls to the wall. And that's if you're a fucking novice, bro. As an intermediate advanced, bro, you're going to plateau super hard, very fast. So I would say it depends on your experience level, but once a month, rotating the movements, it's a good strategy for novices, sure. If you're not going 2 balls to the wall with the volume intensity. But I would say realistically every 3 weeks is probably better. And then the accessories, maybe every 4 to 6 weeks approximately. But I would just say, like, depends on the experience level. Like for me, I'm constantly rotating like on a frequent basis. That said, there's another way around this, which is just using percentages. You wave it. Like if you do a speed wave, you can do 3 weeks of that. 65, 70, 75%. Now you can do the same exercises, right? But it's still a 3-week wave. I find 3-week waves work better than 4-week waves, and you get less plateaus this way. So if you're going to rotate infrequently, do it the way I showed you. Wave it. What are the best ways of improving your trap bar deadlift when you have stalled? Also, I don't want to add weight to improve it. Well, why not, bro? I'm going to say use the max effort method every single week, but rotate the variations of the trap bar pulls. So week 1, you can do low handle trap bar deadlift. Week 2, you can elevate a very slight onset mats, do it that way. Week 3, it could be a deficit trap bar deadlift. Maybe the next week after that, it could be a conventional pull to raise your trap bar automatically. Or behind the back to get more leg drive. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so fucking simple. Just do it like that. Rotate specific variations of the trap bar. Manage your volume intensity throughout the yearly cycle. You know, then you have your volume day where you can do 5x5 trap bar deadlifts and all that, 5x10. Mixing it up, you know, addressing any weaknesses that you may have. Boom. Watch it climb up automatically. Yeah, I think it would be a good idea to start a hashtag or something, posting pictures in unflexed state and natural lighting. I thought about it. Y'all should consider it. It would be a good idea to show realistic standards. I'm not going to be the figure behind this because ultimately the hero is the one that gets fucked over in the end. There's no point. It's a waste of time because it will never change. People are constantly going to show themselves at their best state. That's just the way it works with Instagram and YouTube and just the fitness world in general. We're not going to have thousands of men with elite bodies, right, doing unrelaxed, unflexed, and shit lighting. It's not going to happen. They might show that occasionally, maybe for before and after transformation, or just once in a blue moon. And I know Omar Isuf does this, and I give him major props for that, right? But in terms of like daily fucking pictures looking your worst, it's not going to happen. So why should I compromise my business, right, when everybody else is not going to change? No fucking point whatsoever. It's just a waste of my time and a waste of everybody else's time because everybody's going to keep doing their own thing, and that's just the way it works. So once you accept the reality of things, it's easier to move on, right? That said, if it was a big movement and everybody was on board and we can all join together and show what you actually look like in standard conditions, I'm all for it, for real. But it's not going to happen, so let's not waste our time, yeah? All right, guys, so last question of the week. What does your caffeine intake look like on training days versus off days? Well, I've greatly minimized my coffee intake and just caffeine in general, but I would say on my training days, I have a little bit more. Maybe 200 milligrams extra, okay? But I don't try to go overboard because I realize that I can't sleep after if I have too much caffeine. And that fucks me up big time because that's the most important thing for recovery besides the food, right? So it's like, yeah, you get a little bit of a better workout, but now you can't fall asleep. So what's the point, right? So to me, like, I try not to overdo it for sure. And I seem to be a high responder to caffeine and just stimulants in general. Like, it hits me harder than most people. I don't know why that's the case. So I can't explain that. I have no fucking idea. But on training days, you have a little bit more. Let's say 200 to 400 more, but 400 you don't really need to be honest with you. Regular days, you just have your standard morning coffee, maybe 1 in the afternoon, you're fucking good. Or just 1 in the morning, or 0 whatsoever. But on the training days, I definitely include a little bit of caffeine. Specifically the intensity workouts though, okay? Volume days, you don't really need that for the most part. Maybe a little bit, 100 milligrams, right? Pre-workout. But there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed this segment. Did I tell you or what? The questions were on fucking point. So let's put some more down below, and I'll see you around.